Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. Coming up on today's podcast, we talk with nearly two-decade NFL quarterback and longtime NFL analyst Steve Beuerlein. He's going to join me in the Bullpen coming up next, right here with Adam the Bull.
You're watching Adam the Bull on the BetRivers Network.
All right, welcome back. We're now joined by longtime NFL quarterback, NFL and college football analyst Steve Beuerlein is with us. Steve, how you doing? Thanks for joining me today.
I'm doing great. Actually, really looking forward to the conversation today, Adam, and talking about your Brownies.
Yeah, and you look at the AFC North, Steve, just in general. I mean, with the Browns, the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Steelers. I mean, this division on paper, and obviously you don't play games on paper, you play them on the field. But right now all we got is paper because even training camp hasn't started, although it's right around the corner. But on paper, I mean, you know, all four of these teams look to be really good. I think you can make a pretty solid argument that all four of these teams are capable of winning double-digit games, at least in my mind. Do you agree with me on that or no?
Well, I agree 100%. I mean, the Ravens obviously are a team that underachieved last year by not winning the Super Bowl. Sure. And a lot of people felt that they were definitely from the AFC perspective, probably toward the end of the year, the best team in the conference. But then you look at obviously what the Browns did late in the year. I think they were doing it with smoke and mirrors and mainly defense with Joe Flacco. And I know it was a big craze with Joe Flacco there toward the end of the year, but it showed how much talent that the Brownies have. And, you know, specifically on defense. And obviously there's some holes on offense, but I think they've done a good job filling some of those holes. And we'll be able to talk about that a little bit more as we go. But Cincinnati, as long as Joe Burrow is healthy, we know what they can do. And the expectation level is Super Bowl or bust for them. So the team that maybe has the most question marks, I think would be the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I believe my heart tells me that Pittsburgh is going to come out of this with their quarterback, and I think Justin Fields is going to be that guy. I really feel like this move for him is going to be great, and he's going to settle in as that guy in Pittsburgh. I think probably toward about the middle part of the season, I think he'll probably take over for Russell Wilson and provide some exciting, consistent quarterback play on a pretty good football team.
Yeah, let's start with that before we get to the Browns, because that's interesting, and I kind of feel the same way as you do. He's got a lot of fans here in Cleveland because obviously he played at Ohio State, and it just felt like the Bears never found a good way to use him. I don't know, how high his ceiling is, but we know that he's going to get much better coaching with Mike Tomlin. I mean, I know Mike's a defensive guy, but we know he's a great head coach, and and they like to run the ball, and that's going to protect Justin Fields not having to throw the ball too much, you would think. What makes you so confident? Because I'm confident, and I feel like I'm in the minority here, that Justin Fields will have a nice rebirth in Pittsburgh.
Well, I think that there were a lot of things working against him in Chicago, mainly the instability and the overall talent around him. And given, not being given the opportunity to really grow in a system with a lot of weapons and a lot of different, offensive philosophies that would fit him. Obviously his confidence was an issue after going through some of the ups and downs that he went through. But I saw enough from him, I thought, over the last few years to believe that he's got the ability to be a top-notch, maybe not an elite quarterback, but some teams in the NFL don't need an elite quarterback to be extremely competitive, to go deep in the playoffs and potentially make a run at the Super Bowl. I think Justin Fields has enough special qualities, and if he can get that confidence level up and he gets in an offensive system where they really know how to use him and they've got a good defense around him, committed to running the ball, like you said. He's always going to be a threat with the football in his hands running as well. And then if he gets a good, solid offensive coordinator influence that really can get to the point where they really know how to give him the best opportunities to make plays in the passing game. I think he can do it from the pocket at a higher level than most people do. I think he showed that on several occasions over the last few years. And my big statement, I think, on this whole evolution of what's happened with Justin Fields, I thought the Bears made a huge mistake in not trading that first pick. I think that the Bears, if they trade away that first pick and commit to Justin Fields for one more year, and I know there's the sentiment up in Chicago is that Caleb Williams is a elite franchise quarterback, no question about it. But I think that what they would have gotten in exchange for that first pick could have solidified that football team in a lot of areas and prepared and set the table for the Bears to go on a really nice run either this year or next year, certainly, where maybe they would have had to find a quarterback if Justin Fields failed again one more year. But then you go out and you bring in a free agent, or if there is a quarterback you love in the draft, you're bringing him into a situation where he's got a good team around him, and you've got a lot more weapons, both offensively and defensively, to kind of protect him a little bit. So we could talk about that forever. I just think it was a mistake that they let him go, and they decided to use that first pick. And I think Pittsburgh is going to benefit from that long term.
Well, here in Cleveland, we hope that doesn't happen, but I'm kind of with you on that, and I think it will. Steve, the Browns, like the Bears, it's been a struggle to find a quarterback for most of their history, right? The Browns haven't had consistent high-level quarterback play since Bernie Kosar. Derrick Anderson had a year, and Baker Mayfield had some moments here and there, but they have not had consistently good quarterback play since Bernie, which is, we're talking over 30 years at this point. Yeah. And when you look at Deshaun Watson, when the Browns first traded for him, I was like, that's it. They have solved their quarterback issue. I saw this guy play in Houston. Whenever he played in Houston, he was fantastic. He was great. He looked like he could be the second best quarterback in the league behind Patrick Mahomes. Well, since he's been here, he's been suspended. He's been injured. And when he's played, he's been, I'll be kind and say, mediocre. I'm certainly not ready to give up on him because he showed great talent in Houston, and he's still not very old. But I'm starting to waver in my confidence. And between the injury and the ineffectiveness, where are you at with Deshaun Watson and his ability to be a franchise quarterback?
Well, just like with Justin Fields, you and I are on the same page here. I agree with you. I thought he was going to be the difference maker for the Cleveland Browns. I had Deshaun Watson as a top 5 NFL quarterback, prior to his injury and then prior to coming to Cleveland. It's another situation. We talked about Justin Fields maybe losing his confidence a little bit. I think everything that Deshaun Watson has been through over the last few years, I think he truly has kind of got the Tiger Woods syndrome, where every time he stepped outside, he was getting those looks, or he felt like everybody was looking at him because of what had transpired off the field. And even though he had gotten himself back to where he was healthy, and I know he did have some injuries last year, which precipitated the move with Joe Flacco, but I believe that if he can get to where he can just focus on football, he can get himself back to an elite level. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy, but I thought that was the answer for Cleveland without a doubt. This year is obviously a vital year for him. It's going to go a long way in determining whether he is going to be the guy in Houston. If he struggles this year and doesn't provide a high-level, consistent, full year of playing, Cleveland's going to be in a position where they've got to look again next year. But I think that he will step up and have a good, solid year, and I expect that will put with the Browns, the way they're playing defense right now, and with the way they can run the football, I think it puts him right in the conversation with everybody. If he just plays at 75% of what we've seen out of him already, that will be enough to give the Browns a chance to win it all.
Steve, I agree. I think the Browns, with a good Deshaun Watson, are a Super Bowl contender with their defense. Hopefully Nick Chubb, is healthy. We'll see where he's at. But if I'm going to bet on a running back, I'm going to bet on Nick Chubb if I'm going to bet on anybody. But obviously he's coming off a serious injury. But I'm curious, one thing that I ignored because I didn't play at any kind of high level, you did. So I'm curious. And you obviously you didn't go, there was no the off the field stuff that we're talking about with Deshaun Watson, but you got hurt your rookie year. You missed your whole rookie season. You sat out an entire season. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was your fourth year on a contract dispute, and then end up going to Dallas. So you've had to deal with some, different types of things, mental hurdles that you had to get over, missing 2 whole seasons early in your career. How tough is that? And because I think it's something that fans and media members, if we didn't play, I can't get inside what a quarterback is in a quarterback's head, and fans are screaming and they're angry, whatever this stuff. Like, how tough are those mental hurdles to overcome?
Well, they're tough for sure, but if you're not tough enough to mentally get through them, then you're not going to make it in the NFL. I mean, that's just the way it is. You have to be mentally tough enough, and you have to have that swagger when you walk in the doors, when you step in the huddle. Your teammates have to see that and trust their confidence in you. I've always said this. If you don't step in the huddle and believe in yourself, those other 10 guys aren't going to believe in you either. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody's going to believe in you. And they can tell, they can feel it, they can sense it. And so that's a huge part of the issue. My situation was much different. One, my rookie year was by design. The Raiders decided to use a minor injury to kind of redshirt me for a year. And then, Mike Shanahan came in the second year, and all of a sudden I was a starting quarterback for, and then Jay Schrader and I went back and forth, and then the contract dispute, like you mentioned. But all those were challenges. I didn't know if I'd ever get a chance to play again. And when I did get traded to the Cowboys, I went through 3/4 of the season without taking a snap. So I'd gone basically a year and 3/4 without even taking a snap in an NFL game. And but when I stepped on the field against the 11-0 Washington Redskins in that 1991 season, it flicked back on into autopilot. I was like, let's go. This is what I'm meant to do. I'm supposed to be here, and I'm going to show everybody that I still got it. And everything took care of itself from there. Obviously, a lot more ups and downs over the course of my career, but I never lost the confidence that I could get it done. And that's what Deshaun Watson needs. Hopefully this offseason, I believe that he should have, with all the money that he's getting paid and with all the expectations that are there, he should have done some very serious mental training to get his head right, to get his head where it needs to be, where he can step on that field come training camp and really believe that this is his time to shine.
Yeah, and I guess we'll find out this year. You said it, and I think a lot of people agree. I know I do. This is it. If he falls on his face this year, the Browns have to start looking for the next quarterback.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how you can waste another year, but this team's ready to win right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
They just need solid, consistent quarterback play.
Yeah. I mentioned Nick Chubb briefly, and I know you reacted to that, so I wanted to get back to it. He's coming off his second torn ACL. He had one in college. He had to have multiple surgeries this offseason. This guy, when he's been on the field, has been as good a back, one of the greatest backs I've seen in my life. I think he's third or second all time in yards per carry, which is, pretty mind-blowing considering all the great backs. He's the perfect, obviously he plays the game the right way. You have 53 Nick Chubbs on your team. You're going to win a lot of football games. So I'm rooting for him hard. I hope he can get back. How concerned are you about his ability to bounce back from such a devastating injury?
Well, first off, I'm a huge fan as well. You're talking about a guy that was the best, arguably the best running back in football over the last 3 or 4 years. You could put Derrick Henry in that conversation as well prior to this past year. But, and doing it in a situation where everybody on the field knew, on the other team that they're playing, they knew they had to shut him down. He was the focus. He was they had very inconsistent quarterback play, as you said. Everybody knew that if you could stop Nick Chubb, you're going to beat the Cleveland Browns. And he still put up those numbers going against defense that were totally keying on him. I'm really concerned, though. That was, like you said, the second serious knee injury. This one, much more serious than a normal ACL. Mm-hmm. I know with medical technology now, they can do amazing things. But, I am hoping and praying again for one of your Browns players to get all the mojo right and be able to come back and be the same guy that he was before. I have my doubts, so I mean
Sure.
it's going to be tough for him to get back to that level that he was at. But until it's proven that he can't do it, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I hope he does.
Speaking of great running backs, you mentioned Derrick Henry. He signs with the Ravens this offseason. Now, the Ravens, overall, I didn't think had a particularly good offseason. They lost, I think, 3 starting offensive linemen. They lost some key contributors on defense. The one big addition they made, though, was Derrick Henry, who's clearly the best back they've had since Lamar has been there. And, obviously they've struggled in the playoffs with Lamar, as great as he played in the regular season. Do you think still Derrick Henry still has another year or two left at the top of his game, or are you worried about the start of a decline?
No, I'm worried about the start of a decline, but I believe that he's got a couple of good years left. There's a lot of wear and tear on that body, but he is a guy that seems to be able to, take it and be able to strap it back on and show up and be a guy that you can count on. I know last year in Tennessee, it was not, a positive experience for him, positive year. I don't know all the details that went into how he was used last year, why it didn't work out the way that you would expect from Derrick Henry. But I think he did not take the beating last year that he'd been taking in previous years. I think this situation in Baltimore, and a really good football team that likes to rotate backs, that has a running quarterback, that will. I think they're looking at only probably maybe 12 to 15 carries a game out of him, and they'll use him in specific situations, obviously goal line situations. But I think they'll blend him in with that offense. They'll try to do whatever they can do to make sure he's healthy going in the late part of the season, because as we all know, that's when the Ravens have kind of sputtered down the stretch. Lamar Jackson being beat up, a couple of key injuries here and there. If they can go into the late part of the season in the playoffs with a healthy Derrick Henry and a healthy Lamar Jackson, that will scare the crap out of everybody, coming into Baltimore probably to play them. So I think it's a great move for the Ravens. I think it makes them better. I would have liked to have seen them pick up another receiver. I think they really need to, whether you want to call it a number 1 or a number 2 receiver, I don't think they have a really established 1 or 2. But if they would have gone out and done that, I think that would really put them on the map, along with a healthy Mark Andrews. So but I think that was a great move for Baltimore. I think they'll use him right, and I think it'll make a difference for them.
Steve, I was having a debate with a friend of mine the other day, and I'm curious your take on this. We were talking about Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and C.J. Stroud. And people will take this as a knock of Lamar Jackson. It's not in any way. I love Lamar Jackson. I think he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. But I said to my friend, and he vehemently disagreed with me, that if I were starting a team, I would take both Burrow and Stroud over Lamar Jackson. Am I nuts?
Oh, not really. I don't think you're nuts. Lamar Jackson, obviously a 2-time MVP, but he has not proven that he can get it done down the stretch. And the key, part of the season, obviously going into the playoffs. And Joe Burrow has. I think, healthy Joe Burrow and a healthy Lamar Jackson, I think probably 80+% of the NFL would take Joe Burrow over Lamar Jackson, and maybe even higher than that. But that's not a knock. You're talking about
right.
One of the very, very, very special quarterbacks to come in our generation, or in this generation. But C.J. Stroud, what he did his rookie year, if he can build on that,
yeah.
I don't know how. I mean, the expectations that he set with his performance last year, I think truly. Going back to you might have another name in your back pocket as well, but I go back to Dan Marino with his rookie year, what he did and how easy he made it look, and the kind of throws that Marino made when he was a rookie. Stroud reminded me of that, the way he stood in the pocket and went through his progressions. and took hits as he's delivering the ball down the field. As an NFL quarterback has to be able to do that. They've got to be able to stand in the pocket and deliver the ball down the field, right, looking a linebacker right in the eyes as you're doing it. You can't win a Super Bowl if you don't have a guy like that. And he's got all the skills if he can stay healthy and prove that last year wasn't a fluke. I mean, it's going to be an incredible run for C.J. Stroud.
Steve, last thing on the Browns. I know you ended your career in Denver. A lot of guys from Denver, when the Browns traded for Jerry Jeudy, were just killing him. And obviously, he was a high pick. He's been a disappointment. I think for the Browns, there was not a lot of risk. They didn't give up much. Now, they paid him a decent contract, but he's certainly got potential there. And if nothing else, he could be a serviceable second receiver behind Amari Cooper. Do you have any faith in him? And were you surprised how strong some of the guys like Brandon Stokely and Mark Schlereth just destroyed him? I thought it was kind of funny, but also.
Well, I'm not surprised at all because, Jerry Jeudy had some maturity issues in Denver, how he handled some of the situations. He got in that spat with Steve Smith, and there were other things that happened that he did not handle well. And I think he really struggled with not being successful. I think he expected to come in and be a star, and it didn't go that way. And that's another team that's had quarterback issues too, though. So you can't blame it all on what Jerry Jeudy did or didn't do. He had some injury issues. To wrap it up cleanly, though, I think it was a great move by the Browns, and I think it could end up paying off tremendously well. I think he's a guy that this is the best opportunity that Jerry Jeudy could have hoped for. And he got paid, like you said, probably more than he deserved to be paid. And that's showing that they really wanted him. They want to make him a big part of what they're doing. And if he can establish himself on the opposite side of the field or as that number 2 guy to Amari Cooper, whoever emerges as the 1 or the 2, it doesn't matter. It means that they're both playing well. If Jerry Jeudy steps up and he's in that conversation, I think he has the ability. I hope that as a professional with the kind of expectations that have been put on him, he will answer the bell and will step up and become the player that he should be able to be.
Last thing, Steve, I know it's been over 20 years since you retired, but are there ever any days? It's been. Does it feel like it? Does it feel like
the gray is showing? Yeah. So,
do you ever wake up in the morning and you're like, I got one more pass in me. I got one pass left. Is it? Could you do it?
Only every morning. Only every morning.
I like that.
Every morning. I know I could, believe it or not, I could still go out and throw it. I mean, I've had 2 elbow kind of reconstructions, not Tommy John, but been through it. But when I get out there and throw it, it comes back, and you start having those conversations with yourself. But listen, I've got 2 fake hips and I've got a fake knee now from a year and a half ago, and I have my other knee. It's the only real joint of my own that I have left. It needs to be replaced too. So I would have to be in a very secure environment to be able to be effective. And obviously at almost 60 years old, it's not realistic. So I understand that now.
Yeah, you got to take you get the 5 best offensive linemen in the NFL. Quick passing game, right to Tyreek Hill, man.
Yeah, get out of there. Yeah, right.
Steve, great stuff. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for joining me.
I'm glad to be a part of it, Adam. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Great chatting with Steve Beuerlein. Gave us some great insight. He's high on Deshaun Watson for this year. He likes the Jerry Jeudy addition, and he thinks the Browns could be a Super Bowl team. Thanks for joining me as always. Thanks to Max and Monzo for producing. Thanks to Steve Beuerlein for joining me. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. Please hit the thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And please use the BetRivers app. You can bet on anything you want. I was 3 of 4 on my Tuesday parlay. I let you down on that 4th one. I'm sorry. 3 out of 4. Good batting average. Not good on a parlay. Hopefully better luck on Friday. We'll talk to you next time. Live show on Thursday at 2 p.m. Join me live Thursday, 2 p.m. on YouTube. We'll talk to you next time right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. Brought to you by BetRivers. See ya.